Welcome to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And good day. Thank you for joining us. It's I was going to say a bright, shiny day, but it's not. Maybe it's just my outlook. Maybe it's the outlook that you have, that no matter what the weather is, wherever you are, you can always have a bright and shiny outlook, right? Maybe it's because the caucus is finally upon us. If you're hearing this show Wednesday, 10 a.m. live, online, you can view, you can watch, you can chat along. You can call us at 515-244-0077, 515-244-0077. If you're listening Sunday at noon, 99.3, we're grateful to be on that airway as well. Good station, great talk and teaching shows. And so we invite you to listen along as well, and thank you. You're probably on the way home from church, or maybe you're getting dinner ready, or whatever that may be. Thank you for listening in. Either way, the caucuses are Monday, February 1st. I hope you are planning on going. Do not be intimidated. It's a very easy process. It doesn't have to be a long process. Whether you go to the Democrat or the Republican, I'm not going to say. I would ask you to validate either one biblically. Tell me the biblical reasons you can or cannot go to that particular caucus. Don't look for perfection, because as long as humans are there, you won't find any. Don't look for perfections in your candidates, because, again, as long as humans are there, there won't be one that's perfect. We had one that was perfect. We hung him on a cross. So have a little grace, but look for the leader that is with you on the priority parts. What is it that you believe? What is the most important one to preserving this nation, and then bringing this nation back to honoring God so that he can again bless us and lift us up and exalt us to be that leader across the globe like we have been in such a short time of history and being a nation. Understand this. God doesn't bless us because we're great. We are great because God has blessed us. And if we don't start living in a way that we deserve that once again, I don't know what our future looks like. And Monday night, February 1st, you have the first step in the process of electing the next leader of the United States of America. We don't think that we select the nominee, but we understand in Iowa that it's very important that we vet every potential nominee. And I'm asking you to get out of your comfort zone, get off your comfy sofa, and get yourself to your caucus. I'm hearing weather reports 3 to 5 inches. Do whatever you need to do to be prepared to get there, as if the British were across the Delaware. If George Washington could cross that freezing, raging Delaware on Christmas Day, the night of Christmas Day, then you can make it across the street, 10 blocks away. Somewhere in your neighborhood is your precinct. Go and talk with your neighbors. Go vote. Say nothing. Just vote and have your say. Get there early. Make sure you get there early in time to register. And yes, we now have same-day registration, much to my chagrin. I do not like it. I'm not trying to disenfranchise anybody. But if you can't think ahead enough to register ahead of time and be committed to a party, I don't want just anybody picking a candidate for another party. I don't think it's a good idea. And it wouldn't disenfranchise our young kids. You know what? They're the ones that are online getting their concert tickets 6 weeks early. They could figure out how to do this. So get yourself there. Be prepared. Vote. Write your name on a piece of paper. It's that simple. If you're in the Democrats, you stand in corners for your candidate. Then you'll have to mix and mingle, and whoever doesn't have enough to be a viable candidate, you have to decide where you're going to go. If you're going to that one, again, I'm going to tell you, get your Bible out. Understand that's the group that tossed God out of their platform, voted 3 times whether or not they could put him back in. So while Franklin Graham may be saying he's leaving the Republican Party, and I totally understand his frustration, but I want him to know there are several of us in the Republican Party who are doing everything we can to hold to the principles that made this nation great. What he should also clarify is that the Democrats left that a long time ago. They don't make any bones about it. So that Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God, that republic that's in your Pledge of Allegiance, understand the foundations of your country. And then please go do all you can as if our liberty and our freedom rests on your shoulders, because guess what? It does. You can find information at your local county party, your local auditor. You can go to iowagop.com, iowademocrat.org. Newspapers, there's no reason not to know. Find out where you need to go and get yourself there. Otherwise, you know what? You're part of the dead weight the rest of us are pulling around. Sorry to be so blunt. On a Sunday afternoon, for those of you who are listening. But we need you on board, and we all need to be rowing the same direction. And that's for our future, our liberty, and the principles that made this nation strong. All right. Joining me in studio today, I'm so excited to get to this. I can't believe in Iowa, little old Iowa, we get such great, great people. And no, I'm not talking about a presidential candidate. By the way, I think we get so carried away in the idea of those who are parading by that could be a possible leader, that the leaders that are already elected are putting things over us this whole time. While we're looking at what could be, those that are killing us with omnibus bills at Christmas time and all these other things that just keep coming down the pike. So I'm not talking about presidential candidates. I'm talking about important people, everyday people, feet on the ground, raising kids in the public school systems, trying to make things better for the rest of us. I have Sheri Few. Sheri, will you give your bio? Who is Sheri Few?
I'm the president of United States Parents Involved in Education, and we're a grassroots organization who is a coalition of state leaders, people like myself who led the fight against Common Core all over the country. People who are frustrated with having very little success, if any, in that battle. So we're a coalition of state leaders, and we're aiming to take down the Department of Education.
And you ran for state superintendent of your schools?
I did in South Carolina in 2014, ran for state superintendent of education. It was actually a result of the activity I had done within the state, educating people about the problems with Common Core. I was asked to run. I had no intention of running, but that's what the end result was in the work that I had carried out throughout the state. I was asked to run, and I carried the message. I forced all of the candidates in the race to address Common Core and say they were against Common Core, and it was the main issue in that race.
Well, I thank you for running. Running for office is never easy. We see the big guys taking shots on camera, but even when you run for a local office, you take shots, and your family takes the heat. So thank you for even running for office. Also in studio is Karen Lamoreaux. Karen, thank you for being here. For those of you who don't know Karen, I've put her link on I put it on my Facebook page, Tamara Scott, but I should put it on the Truth for Our Time Facebook page. I'll get it on there. But Karen is that mom who talked to a school board.
Yes.
And that 4-minute speech went viral and landed you on Fox and Friends.
It did. And several other places. I think it's up to 3 million hits now on YouTube. And a lot has happened since that fateful day.
Did you have any idea? You're just going to talk to your school board. Did you have any idea what was going to happen?
No. There's no way I could have predicted anything on this journey. My life has completely changed over the last 2 years.
Okay, so for those of you I'm trying to get to go to the caucus, don't think about this. It's not that your life has to change. Just go. Just go make your say. But if you have a really good point like Karen did, it might go viral. And you know what? Maybe God's giving you that point. Sometimes we think, surely somebody else, surely some experts, surely somebody's thought about this, but maybe God's giving a good idea to you. Do what Karen did. Be obedient. Go speak out.
I certainly wasn't prepared for it to take off the way it did. In the video, I still had my sunglasses on my head.
You did. I saw that.
And I was livid after sitting through that meeting, hearing what I heard. And since then, in aligning myself with other like-minded parents and grandparents and teachers in my home state of Arkansas, we have formed a huge coalition there. We have over 11,000 followers on our social media page. And we've had a great deal of success in the last 2 years trying to pull our state away from these awful reforms that had a very negative impact on my family at my kitchen table.
And for those of you in Iowa, we do have a Stop Common Core. Any state in the nation has a Stop Common Core Facebook page. There's a couple of Facebook pages for Iowa, but the one with the cookie sheet And all the Apple cookie cutters, all the same, is the one you want to get into. It's the Active Stop Common Core Iowa page. And we'll put links up there and articles up there, and we're networked with these other groups. Like Sheri is talking about this U.S. Parents Involved in Education, USPI.org, is where people can go for more information. But what you're doing is kind of what our Facebook pages do. You're connecting people across the nation.
That's right. We reached out to state leaders, again, like myself and Karen in Arkansas and the leaders here in Iowa. We have over half the states already part of our coalition with leaders who have been taking the fight to their state legislatures. And we've been on conference calls twice a month for about a year, this group, and it's evolved into this campaign, which we're going to be unveiling later today, because we realize that on the state level, we don't seem to be making the kind of progress for all the effort that we're putting in. You know, many of us have sacrificed, thousands of hours over the years. 3 and 4 years we've been working on this issue, only to have legislation passed and then our state Department of Education rebrand the Common Core standards. In South Carolina, that's exactly what happened. We worked hard to get the legislation passed to rewrite the standards. Then they gave it to the bureaucrats to rewrite. They shut us out of the process. And we ended up with what they admit themselves is 90% aligned with Common Core. And the only parts that they changed were parts that were legally mandated by other bills that passed, which was adding back in the math memorization and the cursive writing. So they changed the things they had to change and then gave it a South Carolina name. So that's the frustration that state leaders have felt all around the country. So networking together, we've decided we're going to be better off going after the head of the snake, and that's the U.S. Department of Education, and ending all federal mandates on education.
Wow. You're right. You're going after the head of the snake, and we thank you for it. And we're hearing more and more people talk about it. When you said that we're not making a great progress, we have, when I think about it, the fact that we've had 11,000 on your social media, the turnout you've had across this nation, we had, 50, 60,000 people were opting their kids out of these tests. We have made great progress educating parents and giving parents the freedom and the courage to say, no, not my child. But the frustration is the overpowering federal government, the bureaucracies that are not listening to we the people. And so that's what you're after, is to network those parents to give a better organization. What works in one state, we can try in other states. What doesn't work in one state, we'll have a lesson learned for other states. And so I thank you. This is a visionary, I think, that you're doing this. I appreciate what you're doing. And Iowa, just so you know, if you're listening, Iowa did the same thing. We did away with Common Core. Oh, yay, yay. And the governor signed an executive order, and we thanked him for that. And then they came back in, and in the governor's letter to SBAC, it said we now have Common Core, now known as Iowa Core. And you're right. It's 89 to 99% the same. Only we don't even get the math and the cursive. I don't think we've gotten that through our legislature yet. So it is the same exact thing. It's still Common Core. It's still federal commandeering. It's still engineering and indoctrinating of our children. And so if your kid's in the public school, you need to be aware of this. And Karen, are your kids still in the public school?
No, I removed my children from government school 2 years ago.
And she says government school. I like that.
Yes. That's what it is, and that's what we need to start calling it.
You're absolutely right. And you've heard me use that term before. It's not public. Public is where you have... Listen, they don't want your input anymore. They want your approval. That's all. And you've heard me say this before as well. And I'm sorry if this upsets you on your Sunday afternoon. I'm so sorry about that. Go to your school. In most of them, there's a chain link fence around them now. You have to go in one door. In that door, you provide your ID or you have an appointment. You sign in to see your own child. You sign in and register to go visit your child's classroom. You have to have a pass when you go in, an ID pass. And then when you go in, think how these kids are in lines. They go to line in the cafeteria in line. They put when my kids were in school, Dad went to visit one day, they eat their food, and then there's a woman who looks much like a warden who would tell them to hit the wall. If they'd done something wrong, hit the wall. They had to go stand along the wall, hit the wall. And then she gave them the signal For those of you who are watching, she gave them the signal, and they were to put their heads down. All of them put their heads down. My husband refused, need I say, and started a little bit of a rebellion on our behalf. What are we training our kids? It's like a prison. It's a penitentiary. We're going to be right back after these messages. Stay tuned. Truth for Our Time.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And we're live in studio, 10 a.m. Wednesday. You can catch it on webcast1live.com. You can also catch it on 99.3 Sundays at noon, and tamarascott.com. Thank you, Ryan, our producer. tamarascott.com will have the archives for you of anything that we have on the show. And I'll try to put some links also as well on the Truth for Our Time Facebook page. We're talking with Karen Lamoreaux, the mom who went viral on her video when she addressed the school board. And I loved it because she was doing really well, and they told her her time was up. Then she let them have it. She did a really good job of speaking off the cuff at that point. And then Sheri Few is here with us, and she is with the United States Parents Involved in Education. There's a novel idea. When we went to break, we were talking about, I was aligning it with a prison. What you see in your schools is very similar to what you would see if you went to visit a child in the prison. You are made to feel second rate. You are made to feel like you have no rights there other than what the warden allows you to have. And I was about to tell you that my husband was told to put his head down, which didn't go well. But he about started the prison riot right there. And they don't let him have forks either. They can't have forks at my kid's school because they might hurt somebody.
Oh my God.
I mean, they're treated like animals.
They use sporks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Not like you can't stab somebody with a pencil, but I digress. But you're just teaching these kids that they're subjects to the warden. And Karen, you had a similar experience.
Well, yeah, I can just visualize the cafeteria warden using her little hand signal to shush your husband in the cafeteria. And I had similar experiences. My elementary age children only had a 15-minute lunch and they weren't allowed to speak during that lunch. I was allowed, however, to go up there and have lunch with them, but I had to stop and get my visitor's pass and sign in and whatnot. And then I was expected to sit there silently and not talk because there's no talking allowed at lunch.
We wonder why they misbehave in the classroom. Let it out in the lunchroom.
Outlet. They're kids. So, for me, it's one giant metaphor. Those things don't have anything to do with Common Core or really the United States Department of Education, but it really is a metaphor of all of the other things that we have to deal with. One way that I was blatantly shushed was when my children had their fingerprints digitally obtained and stored in a Pearson software database without my knowledge or my consent. To me, that is a bureaucratic and a federal shush as the mother. That is my child. That's our personal information. You had no right to take that information without my permission and store it somewhere where you can't prove to me that data is safe and secure. So we're seeing these trends, not just the trend of Common Core, but the excessive testing, the blatant data collection, without any regard for the students' rights or the parents' rights. And so all of these things are coming to a head, and parents are starting to wake up from their slumber and say, enough is enough. We've given the United States Department of Education how many years, since 1970, to get this right, and they've done nothing but make it worse over the years. We've increased our spending over 300%. As a state, we take our money, we send it all the way to D.C. For what? So they can take a chunk of it for themselves and send the rest of it back with a bunch of strings attached that have absolutely no regard for parental or student rights in government education. This office is unconstitutional in the first place. And in the age of accountability, who is holding the Department of Education responsible? Who is holding the United States Department of Education responsible? Who is holding the Arkansas Department of Education accountable? Nobody.
Or the Iowa,
Nobody.
or the South Carolina. And here's the deal. Every time you even question a Department of Education initiative, funding, you are treated as you're anti-education.
Oh, yeah. I'm anti-public school. That's what they tell me.
And I have been for most of my adult life.
Yeah, which is not the case. And I think there's a inaccuracy out there. A lot of people think that when we say we want to see the United States Department of Education dismantled, that means that we want to see an end to public school. No. That means we want the control of our government schools to go back to the local level. It doesn't mean we're going to shut down government schools. It means that the money and the decision making needs to be at the local control level. There is absolutely no reason for the federal government to keep dictating and shoving all of these things down our throat. At the end of the day, what I think most parents don't understand is that the goal of all of these reforms over the last 5 to 10 years is in the name of workforce steering. What the United States Department of Education and its corporate private partners want is a managed economy. That's the purpose of your Smarter Balance test. That's the purpose of having the Iowa core standards, is for the United States Department of Education along with the Department of Labor to pigeonhole your child and say, based on your performance according to these standards on this test and the behavioral data that we've collected on you, this is what we think you should do for a living. This is how we think you should serve your government. Right? Because that's what the American dream is. The American dream is corporate serfdom forever. Right? That's what everyone in Iowa needs to understand as you're having this conversation about the Smarter Balance test. The Smarter Balance test is not about making sure your child is reading and writing at a grade appropriate level. The Smarter Balance test is about someone else determining what your child should do for a living.
That's right.
And this, we've gotten to this point. They tried to do it in the 30s. They tried to do it in the 60s, and they're trying to do it again. This is why they wanted a Department of Education at the federal level, and this is why we need to stop it.
Let me jump in here too, Karen, in support of what you said. And you did say they tried it in the 30s and the 60s, and it does go back that far. Mm-hmm. So even though the reforms over the last 5 to 10 years have been about Common Core and No Child Left Behind and these testing, for decades, the federal government has attempted, ever since they were established, they have attempted to control curriculum. And they have done so through standards. You know, some of the debates that I've had in my state with the bureaucrats that run the government schools over the Common Core issue, I've heard superintendents of education, this was a young superintendent, by the way, who actually told the public, we've always had standards.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, we only started standardized testing in the 90s. That's when it started. So we haven't always had standards. Now, we may have always had objectives for students, you know, what you want them to learn, obviously. But this is morphed into standards, which are an attempt by the federal government to control what's taught in the classroom, in every classroom across the country.
And you're talking about, it's a caste system. We were so fortunate in America not to have a caste system where kids are predestined into a career or vocation, no matter what their giftings are. And this is exactly what's coming down through the government schools, through this workforce development program. Common Core is just one more in a long line of educational reforms that are not about the betterment of our children or education, but about corporations, what corporations need, and what somebody's deemed appropriate for the next generation. And I would tell you, if we would have had the Common Core, we wouldn't have Gates, who dropped out of college, and I can't think of his name, the young man who never even went to college, millionaire, can't think of his name, developed something online.
Zuckerberg?
No, this was a new one I just got. I'll see if I can pull it up a little bit later, but my point is, first off, Zuckerberg, who would have... I'm not going to say his name right.
I think I messed it up.
I just call him the Zuck.
I just butchered it. But he would have never made it. And how would you have geared him toward a career field that hadn't existed yet?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay.
Right.
So
it makes no sense at all that the government thinks they can predict what the jobs are going to be in the next generation. It makes absolutely no sense at all because of the point you made, because of the way technology develops so quickly. They can't possibly predict. And I love the point that you made, too, that children and their families should, and I would say even their churches, should work together and decide what a child's gifts are, what their callings are, and nurture them in those gifts and talents that God has blessed them with. And that's the direction they should go as far as their career. The government should have nothing to do with those choices and decisions. And when it started was, when the standards first started, it was outcome-based education. And my children were in school at that time. My oldest, when he was in 6th grade, was surveyed. And based on that survey, that's when they began pigeonholing him into his career path, based on his responses to a survey in 6th grade. And since then, it's changed. It's become even worse, of course. Now in high school in South Carolina, you have to declare a major. When you're a freshman in high school, you declare a major. Well, my youngest son is finishing his last year of college now, and he still hasn't figured out what he wants to be. So to think that a 6th grader or a 9th grader has any clue about what they're going to do in their future, it is the idea that we've changed from academics into workforce development. It is a critical point of this whole argument that we need to understand, and the government is trying to control the economy through government schools.
So my friends have come to Iowa from South Carolina, from Arkansas, because as you know, so much is happening in Iowa. The presidential candidates are all here, and we have many conversations taking place, town hall meetings. So if you're listening to this on Wednesday, then you can join us at 12:30 at Airport Holiday Inn, 6111 Fleur Drive, Airport Holiday Inn, where we'll have a press conference, hoping to get the press there, but you know how that is when you've got 1,000 different events where they could attend. Either way, we'll try to get it online for you later, and then Karen and Sheri will be talking a little bit later. We'll just have what you will is a town hall strategy of ourselves, and we'll talk a little bit. Michelle Crystal's going to give us an update on what happened when she and Heather Stansel testified before the Education or the Rules Committee before the session started, and many of them seemed shocked. Many of our legislators seemed shocked about things that were happening that they didn't know about, and I thought, we brought Jane Robbins in 2 years ago and had her testify before the committee, but y'all shut her down. But they didn't even know about it. But because somebody in charge of a committee, a kill committee, And that's exactly what they did. They killed Representative Sandy Salmon's bills, and they're doing it again this year. Put them in committees where they're never going to make it out and see the light of day. And so these other representatives who would do the right thing didn't even get the chance because they didn't even know about that bill. When 700 bills come through each legislative session, which, by the way, if you would like to help us at the Capitol, we need citizen lobbyists. You can learn to lobby from your computer, your laptop. You can come down there with me. Either way, we'd love to have you come down and lobby with us. There are several down there now. Pastors are coming several days a week, but we need parents. We need we the people down there talking to your legislators. Here's why. They hear from the lobbyists who want the bill. They hear from the beneficiaries who are going to get the money out of the bill, but they don't hear from you who are going to pay for the bill. You need to come down. You need to have FaceTime with your legislators. If nothing else, in the town hall coffees, when they come through the session, they'll have coffees at the local shop. Ask them these questions that we're talking about. You can get the pledge. Sheri, is this pledge online?
It is not online yet, but it will be this evening.
So for those of you who are listening on Sunday, you obviously missed the press conference, but we'll get those online. There's more happening in Houston, and we're hoping to have more across the nation. This advisory board, give us a few of the names who are on the advisory board.
Well, we have a very impressive list of advisory board members. At the top of that list is Michelle Malkin, and we're really thrilled that she's not only loaned her name to the Stop Fed Ed campaign, but she wants to be a part of it, and she's going to help us to push out our message and help us become successful in stopping the Department of Education and all federal education mandates. So we have other heavyweights in the Common Core movement, Sandra Stotsky, James Milgram, Dr. Duke Pesta, Terrence Moore, who wrote the book Story Killers, which was so awesome. We've got Dr. Gary Thompson. I'm sure I'm missing someone. Crystal Swayze is on the advisory board. It's a really impressive list. But if you go to USPIE.org, you can see the advisory board members there, the leadership team, and our mission.
Excellent. We've got to go to a break. You hear the music starting. We'll be right back. We'll be talking about more of this with the U.S. parents involved in education. It's your call. These are the only treasures on earth that you might take to heaven with you. Think that through, and you're responsible for them. We'll be right back.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
Chatting away. I'm sorry, when you get ladies together, we're just busy doing business. We're talking about Karen's book. The title is called No Choice, No Voice. Something's rotten to the core. How
You like that?
I do like that. First off, no choice, no voice. Clever, but something's rotten to the core. We're talking about Common Core. And the book is available Amazon?
It's available on Amazon. You can get it in print or the Kindle edition if you prefer to read on your tablet. You can also order it directly from the publishing group at nochoicenovoice.com.
Can somebody order bulk? So when
Yes.
they have a Common Core rally, then they have them there to sell?
Yes, and if you do that, you'd want to go through the No Choice, No Voice website, and we'll give you a good discount to order in bulk.
There you go, folks, right there. No Choice, No Voice website.
We've been busy giving those copies of the book to our state legislators, and it's written in a very simple way so that parents can understand it, legislators can understand it. It has all of the talking points from standards to testing to data collection. So it really helps activists, boots on the ground, to make their case to people, and it helps legislators understand in a quick read all of the research that we've been doing for so many years.
Here's why, parents. We get it. You're busy. There's such a burden on you, as we've said on this show how many times. $14,976 every year could be saved if we would do away with some of the administrative law, the bureaucratic red tape, those permits, surcharges, fines that happen. They are keeping you so busy and oppressed as parents that you don't have time to do what God designed for the family, and that is be parents and nurture and train your children. It is your responsibility. And today we're always told, leave it to the experts. What a farce. Look where the experts have gotten us. As Karen said, since the Department of Education in the 70s, we've seen nothing but a decline and a high cost financially, but a cost to our families, to our principles, to our morals, to everything that we hold dear in this country. So Sheri, I thank you for starting US PI, Parents Involved in Education. You can go to that website, uspie.org. And we've got the pledge is online. You could print that off. You could scratch off the term there for the president or senator or a member of Congress, and you could put school board member.
Absolutely. In fact, we'll have one that will be available soon for the down ballot candidates as well, so they won't have to scratch it off. But we are starting with the presidential candidates because obviously that's where all the attention is. That's where the media is focused right now, is on the presidential candidates. And, in order to end the Department of Education and unconstitutional federal mandates on education.
Have any of them said they would?
Well, many of them have said it during their stump speeches. So we don't think we'll have a problem getting at least the Republican candidates to sign the pledge. But we want it in writing. We want it on record so that once they're elected, we can go back and say, you said you would support us. You said you would do everything within your power to make this happen. So we're focused on the presidential candidates. We're going to challenge them to sign it. And because obviously it's going to take a president that supports in order to accomplish our goals. And it's going to take a majority in Congress to accomplish our goals. So we'll start with the presidential candidates. Then we're going to challenge every congressional race in the country. And then we'll have the pledge also available for down ballot candidates in the state all the way down to the school board. So it's going to happen all across the country in every election in the coming year.
I think that it's happening. I think the movement, the pendulum is swinging back. There for a while, education was I will still tell you in this country, education is the false god. And knowledge / degree titles is the idol. education is the false god and knowledge is our idols. It's all about where you went to school, what degree you have. We all know people who are working outside their areas of degree and major, all right? But you have the chance. I think the pendulum is swinging back, that people have had enough. They see the man behind the curtain. The wizard has been exposed at the Department of Ed.
And the incompetence, the sheer incompetence.
And arrogance.
The condescending tone. You know, you remember a couple years ago when Arnie Duncan made that comment about, oh, we're just a bunch of angry white suburban mothers.
Yes.
You know what? Arnie Duncan, John King, whoever sits on that throne, we reject your divisive statements.
And by Gumby, we're the parents.
We're not here to debate the merits of these horrible reforms. We're here to stop them. We're here to stop them. Enough is enough.
You are the parent. You're the taxpayer. We the people. In all of those arenas, you're the ones the government should be listening to.
Buck stops here. I'm the mom.
But if you think this is just about Common Core, just know, here in Iowa, it's hard with just a weekly show. I just don't get all the topics talked about. But we've done shows on the DHS coming in and quizzing and interviewing your kids without your knowledge. We've done shows on the behavioral rooms that are in every school district. Waukee had a situation years ago where they didn't have the actual room, so they put a little first grader underneath the stairway. She pulled out her hair. She wet herself. That's their idea of dealing with problems now. Time out is not what you remember time out. And you can do a search on some of those stories out of Atlanta. Kids are harmed, and they've even had kids die in some of those behavior rooms. It is a prison-like mentality where they consistently test your child. I think one of the articles said 70 days a week, or 70 days a year they were testing some of these kindergartens. That was in a Lamar Alexander article. Kindergarten. And the SBAC takes longer than the law bar exam.
Yes, it's longer than that. It's longer than sitting for the SAT. And keep in mind that 50% of the funding for that Smarter Balance test was with federal dollars.
That's right.
That is a federal government test. And these student databases that information flows to is also funded by the Department of Labor. In my home state of Arkansas, the Federal Department of Labor gave our state $18 million to hurry that database along before the implementation of Common Core, and our test was PARC.
And before parents figured out what was going on.
Yeah, we had no idea. This was all happening back in 2003.
Was this when did they fingerprint your kids?
They fingerprinted my children in 2013.
Parents, think that through. Fingerprinting your kids without you knowing about it. And we know beyond, we don't know what they're going to do with it, whether it's going to go to the Department of Labor, Department of Defense. But beyond that, the hacking.
Yes. Well, that was my biggest concern. And look, they're always going to have some sunshine and applesauce reason for doing what they do. I don't think that there's some evil federal government Wizard of Oz behind a green curtain that has, horrible intentions for our kids. I think we end up with horrible outcomes that were well-intentioned at one time because they're just too big to get anything done efficiently. And sometimes we have a difference in values. The fingerprinting in my school was done to check books out of the media center. Several other schools in my district were using it, and this is the most common use, is in the cafeteria. They use their thumbprint to purchase their lunch. And so their story is, oh, well, the lines are so long. And, now that you've only got 15 minutes for lunch, you can't spend 10 of that, right? Standing in line being shushed. So, they are making the argument that, well, this is for efficiency because the schools are so big, because they have so many kids. They're in such a state of test accountability that they don't have time to eat. So now we have to fingerprint our children. The problem is that information went into a database that is partnered with Pearson Education, which is a very anti-American organization at best that is wreaking havoc on education on the other side of the pond in Europe and now having their way with us. It wasn't secure. They didn't ask my permission. Who knows who's going to get access to that? The contract information in your Smarter Balanced testing contract, as well as in our PARC test contract, allows anybody who can identify themselves as an education research entity access to that information on your child. They can go right into your state database and get it. They don't even have to ask your State Department of Ed for permission to do that. So, for example, some of the companies who've already come up publicly saying, yay, we're an education entity and we get this information, include Microsoft, Pearson, of course, Intel, Cisco Systems, Harvard University. Anybody else? Would anybody else like my child's fingerprint? Because the line is too long to check out a book. Because we have to hurry up and go take another government test in the name of accountability and workforce steering. Enough, enough, enough. The United States Department of Education is out of control. They are overreaching, they are overspending, they are incompetent, and they are failing. They've had 40 years to get it right. Parents are coming back to take control of our kids.
We've got to go to break. Perfect timing. We'll be right back after these messages.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And thanks for staying tuned. I am Tamara Scott. You're listening to Truth for Our Time, where we help you when the headlines hit home. Why? Because if God expects you how to live it, He's directed you how to do it, somewhere in His Word. And so we just keep coming back to biblical foundations. Why? Because that's what made this country great, but it's what we should be standing on, even if it didn't make this country great. It's just that when you do follow biblical foundations, you are blessed. There's good reward. There's good outcome, which is why our founding fathers did intend. They knew what made better Christians, made better citizens. And for those of you who want to get your feathers in a ruffle and say, keep your God out of my government, understand you wouldn't have your government without my God. Even if we go back to education, the old Deluder Act, 1647, as soon as a community reached, I think, a population of 50 or more, they wanted somebody in that community to be able to teach the children to read. Not just to read for reading's sake, but to read so they could read the scriptures and not be deceived by the old deluder Satan, because they knew these folks needed to be sharp academically. The fear of the Lord becomes wisdom and knowledge. You've seen more creations, innovations, medical breakthroughs out of where? America and Israel, even in its short existence. There's truth in that. There's just absolute truth in that. Today, we're talking about Stop FedEd, the new campaign of U.S. parents involved in education, USPI.org. Sheri Few is the president and founder. She's made the trip to come to Iowa, this press conference on Wednesday, to get the candidates to talk about the issues. So when you go to your caucus, some caucuses will be run differently, but you can put a plank in the platform. Sheri, you'd like to see the plank say, just end the Department of Education.
Yes, and we have to add the caveat, all federal education mandates, because the mandates aren't just housed in the Department of Education. We've got the Department of Labor that Karen mentioned earlier, and there's the National Science Center that houses all the data. So we have to, this the head of the snake is the Department of Ed. We've got to start there. But then we've also got to end all federal education mandates. It's unconstitutional, and it's destroying government schools.
Imagine if the tax dollars you sent to D.C. could stay in your state.
Maybe we wouldn't have to bring Kleenex and wet wipes to the classroom if we weren't sending that money to D.C. so that they could tie a bunch of strings to it only to send it back with a little for themselves, right? And Health and Human Services is another one. In this latest law that just passed Congress, ESSA, they moved a lot of these federal mandates from the United States Department of Education. Well-intentioned, right? Republicans in Congress are trying to take power away from Arne Duncan and John King. So they moved a lot of this power to the Department of Health and Human Services when it comes to things like pre-K expansion. So any kind of medical data collection is going to come up here in the next couple of years, especially since they're funding a push now to put more clinics inside of our schools and turn them into centers of community instead of centers of education. So Sheri makes a very good point about stopping the federal mandates. We can dismantle the Department of Education, but again, that's just one step. There's more to do. The mandates need to go because they're just going to keep moving it from one department to the next.
There are a lot of organizations working together. You're not trying to take over. You want to work with those groups, each having the autonomy in their states to continue as they need to fight whatever it is in their state. But by building this network, whatever might have worked in another state can be duplicated. Whatever didn't work can be tweaked and done better.
Yes, that's right. We're learning from one another. We're encouraging one another, and we're supporting each other's efforts and resources. We share resources. So as a coalition, obviously we're stronger than just, the leadership and the network we have in our states. What we're talking about here is a coalition of grassroots networks all across the country. It's the Common Core movement has been so huge in the political process. I like to say about Common Core, the one good thing about Common Core is that it's caused parents and taxpayers to wake up and see what's happening in these government schools that they're paying for. So they've woken up. There's a huge movement to end it, and now we've got to take it to the next level. We recognize that Common Core, the name itself, is toxic, but we all agree on the premise that the federal government should not have any say in a state's curriculum, in a state's education. So I'd say that it's a nonpartisan issue even, because on both sides of the aisle, people agree that education needs to happen at the local level. All the decisions about education, we need to get the federal government out of the way.
And for those of you who think, but they're going to do away with standards, we have to have standards. Listen, you had standards in the one-room schoolhouse. You probably had better competition when each school district has their own standards because they see the folks just across the district line are doing better on math scores. They're going to be doing what they can to improve math scores here, where if you have this Common Core, you don't get that ability just to tweak your education materials, your curriculum. It's out of your control. So I would tell you we did better with the one-room schoolhouse and flashcards than what we're doing today. We put people on the moon.
That's right.
All right, so ladies, we have maybe 4 minutes left. I want to make sure we get all the points in. And is there an action point for parents out there? You've got moms and dads. Maybe you've got a one-income family. Maybe you've got two-income where they're both working and they're doing everything they can. What can they be doing? What's a practical thing that moms and dads, grandmas can be doing?
I really encourage everyone to shine their light on this subject however they can. Some people can donate their time. Some people can donate their talents. Others can simply donate some funding. We are setting up chapters in every state, and there are Facebook pages set up as well. So, for instance, if you live in my home state of Arkansas, you can get on Facebook and look up AR Pie for Arkansas Pie. Or in the state of Florida would be Florida Pie. And that's one way to start the conversation, get connected with other like-minded people in your home state. And you can also reach out to us through our website, www.uspie.org. And there's a Contact Us tab where you can reach out and we will help connect you with people in your state. We'll send you emails and keep you updated on the fight. And you can follow us on Twitter as well. What's the hashtag, Sheri?
At USPie_EDU alert.
At USPie_.edu alert. So help in any way that you can. We've set up a chapter in my home state of Arkansas, and we'll be working very closely with the National Coalition to raise money, because these things take money to do, and to hold our local elected officials accountable and educate them as to what the objectives are, and see this campaign as a success. So I would say do what you can do with what's within your means, whether it's time, money, or service.
Sheri, about 30 seconds.
Yeah, I agree with everything Karen just said, and I would just emphasize we need you to join the movement. This is a movement, a national movement to stop federal education. The movement is called Stop FedEd. Go to uspie.org. Join the movement.
This is not anti-child. This is not anti-education. The sad fact is, if you stop the Department of Education, it will be a protection for your children.
Absolutely.
It will be better education for your children. So we've given you a lot to think about today, and it's not that we're anti-education, we're anti-public schools, but the schools are no longer public domain. They have been taken over by an agenda, and it's a government indoctrination system. And think of the peer pressure that you feel at work. Imagine your child in the classroom when teachers look at them or say to them, and again, this isn't anti-teacher. A lot of great people there, but the system is just way too big. The Titanic is going down, and even the good ones are going to go with it. And so it's your chance. These are your kids. You've been involved. You've been informed. Now be encouraged and never be complacent, and get to your caucus.